Hi, we are still going on in the series of faith. We are still with the series of faith. In the spiritual realm, in the spiritual realm, sees life in two forms: the immortal and the mortal. And so, when God created man, when God made man, his body still represents the two forms of life: the immortal and the mortal. We have the bones in the human body, and we have the flesh. Now the bones represent the immortal, and we'll see how shortly. And the flesh represents the mortal. So that the flesh that decomposes easily, the flesh decomposes very easily. That represents the mortal. But the bones, this that take too long, are the one that represent the immortal. So as when God, after he had created Adam, he now took a rib out of Adam and made Eve. Now, when he brought Eve to Adam, Adam declared that she was the bone, mentioned about bones and the flesh, and that's in Genesis chapter 2. Genesis chapter 2, verse 23. And this is how it reads. And Adam said, "This is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman because she was taken out of man." She shall be called woman because she was taken out of man. But part A says, "This is the bone of my bones and the flesh of my flesh." In essence, Adam was saying her eternal, her immortal part, the immortal part of this creation here is from me. And still the mortal part of her creation is from me. So that he began with bone of my bones. That's to say, the immortal part. Remember, God did not breathe into the nostrils of Eve. He only did that to Adam. That's why in Adam referring to Eve, he had to refer to bones and the flesh, the immortal and the mortal, because he was given the immortal by God when God breathed into his nostrils, but God did not breathe into Eve's nostrils. So the immortal part of Eve still came from Adam, and and for the sure part, God took the rib from Adam. Adam, that's the immortal part. God took the rib from Adam, that's the immortal part, and then made into a woman, that's put flesh on her. Flesh can just be commanded, just like animals. Animals are just commanded. There be lions, animals of all kinds. God did not use any part to physically create animals. He just commanded for them to be. But the reason God created man specifically was with his own hand was the immortal part, of man. That's why God, when he took the rib out of Adam, he was taking the immortal part out of Adam and then fill it with the mortal part to make another human being suitable for companionship with Adam. So, so Adam now declares, "This is the rib of the bone of my bones." That's this the immortal part of this creature here. This creation is still a part of me, has been taken from me, and this is the flesh of my flesh. The mortal part now still has been taken from me, so it's still a part of me. So she shall be called woman because she has been taken from man. That from me, that is. So bone, that's why we said bones represent the immortal, while flesh represents the mortal of the of man. That's why in the valley of dry bones, in Ezekiel, Ezekiel, when he was taken to by the Spirit to the valley of dry bones, that is in Ezekiel chapter Ezekiel chapter 37. Ezekiel chapter 37. Uh, yeah, just verse 1 and 2. We shall read just verse 1 and 2. And that is in Ezekiel chapter 37. That is where God, the Spirit of the Lord, took Ezekiel to the valley of dry bones. Ezekiel chapter 37, verse 1 and 2. Let's read. The hand of the Lord was upon me and carried me out in the Spirit of the Lord and set me down in the midst of the valley, which was full of bones. 2. And caused me to pass by them round about, and behold, there were very many in the valley, and lo, they were very dry. One thing you have to notice here is, later on in this story, Ezekiel will be made by God to command the bones into a big army. But what we have to remember is, the bones were already there, because God cannot go against his own principles, his own direction, his own standards. So the immortal part of the army was already there. How they got there, maybe God did that earlier. But when he brought Ezekiel, they were already there. God could not tell Ezekiel in a valley that had nothing to command it into an army. No, because the immortal man, he was not created by just being ordered around, as ordered, let there be, by faith. No, the immortal part God already placed there. God was not even going to tell Ezekiel to breathe into this army one by one so that they can have life. No. Although later God caused a wind to blow over them and then give them life to breathe. But the bones, the point here is the bones were already there. So later on, God only used Ezekiel to command the bones to align themselves one to another as they're supposed to be, the way the human body is composed, according to the composition of the human body, and then he would command the flesh now to come on them, because the flesh is what decomposes very easily. So what we were bringing out here is that the bones were already there in the valley, in the valley of the dry bones, because the immortal part, nobody can perform, use his hands or whatever to create. God could not ask Ezekiel to take some soil and then create, and then no, that's God's part, and that's why we are saying the bones refer to the immortal. Remember, Adam referred to Eve as bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. The immortal is from me, and the mortal of her is still from me. So the immortal, the rib was taken out to create the immortal part. So, and finally, to qualify that point, remember when Jesus was while on the cross, at his crucifixion, to confirm that he was dead, the Roman centurions had to pierce his side by a spear. One thing you'll notice in that verse is that in that chapter of that, referring to that, explaining that, is that spear did not touch his bones. Why? Because the bones refer to the immortal, they are the ones that have life. They are the ones that are of faith. And faith must give life. So the spear that was pierced in Jesus' side could not touch the bones, only his flesh. So for water to gush out and blood. So that because these bones were going to give Jesus That was in reference, in the context of faith. They were going to bring Jesus back to life again. The bones. They were the immortal part that was going to bring Jesus back to life again. Was going to give Jesus life back again. And so for God to confirm the relationship of 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 bones and faith, because faith is eternal, and death does not have power over faith. That's why it had to bring Jesus back to life. And just to prove that faith is eternal and faith has is figuratively represented by bones, we shall have to look at 2 Kings chapter 13 verse 21. 2 Kings chapter 13 verse 21. Just to prove the relationship as in bones, what human bones refer to. They figuratively refer to faith, and faith is eternal. Faith, death does not have authority over faith. We said 2 Kings, yeah. We said 2 Kings chapter 13, verse 21. But this is about the story in Israel about Israelites who are going to marry somebody, and then they saw people come, war, others bringing war. So they had dug over an open grave, and then it was a grave of a prophet. And we remember that this prophet had asked for a double portion of the previous prophet that he was serving under, his spiritual father. Elijah was the spiritual father to Elisha. He had asked for a double portion of miracles. So he died before performing all the double, because Elijah performed 7 major miracles, and then Elisha, since he asked for a double portion, he was supposed to perform twice. That's 14. Unfortunately, he died before he had performed the 14th miracle. He had only performed 13. So when he died, he was buried somewhere. And then when this Israel, somebody else died, they forgot that there was a grave here already, so they dug there still. And then when they were coming, they saw people to bury this guy. Let's read verse 13, and you see what really happened. Verse 13 of 2 Kings. The verse was supposed to be 21, not 13. 2 Kings 13, verse 21. 21 says, "And it came to pass, as they were burying a man, behold, they spied a band of men, and they cast the man into the sepulchre of Elisha, who, when the man was laid down and touched the bones of Elisha, he revived and stood up on his feet." One part was of that verse was proving that Elisha had asked for a double portion of Elisha had asked for a double portion of Elijah's miracles, performing power. So that was the 14th. However, the important part was God was giving you the reference of bonds. He was giving you the relationship of bonds and faith. That faith is represented by bonds. Bonds do not combust easily, and they still go on, and so faith will still give you life even in death. And that's why when this man's body was drawn into the grave, the open grave. I don't know, they use the word sepulchre. I don't want to explain that. I don't know it anyway. But when they got into the open grave, Elisha's open grave, where the flesh had decomposed but the bones were there, when this dead body touched the bones, it got life back and sprang back to life, and started running after the people who are going to bury them. So, ladies and gentlemen, today we are just proving the relationship between bones and faith. That faith is referred to bones. That's why in the next session we shall explain further. That's why previously we said faith is the skeleton of any spiritual being. Till the next session, ladies and gentlemen, good morning.